23. What'd you say? 23 what?
31. 31.
31. 31. Yeah. So let me go to let me see, 26 maybe. Let me see. It says, "My son, give me thy heart and let thy eyes observe my ways." And we know that the only heart that is pleasing to God is the renewed heart, right? Not the stony heart, but the renewed heart.
Amen.
Right? Which would be the heart of flesh, which comes from Christ, which means it would be ruddy, red. So it says, "For a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit." Talking about the narrow, there's two of everything in the Bible. You got the narrow way to Jesus, and in the Bible, the whore and her pit is called narrow. So it doesn't mean like Jesus' path is really narrow and then the other path is huge. No, it's saying it's just pointing out the intentional. If you're choosing either Satan or Christ, it will be intentional. Meaning you're a narrow path, you have to pay attention to get in there. Like you can't just be running and just end up there. Like it's very intentional. So it says, let's see, where am I at? Oh, I think I went too far. Hold on. Go back. I should have started at 21. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Until
what happened? Who was talking?
It was Brenda. Vinci. I was saying I was reading that the New King James, and I couldn't really get understanding of it until Sister Jen brought in the King James, and it was a lot more clear. It was talking about long grace.
I've read all the translations. I like all of them. It's just if you're not studying it in the original language, it could be a little hard to understand. That doesn't matter what translation you read. I've read them all. I have no problem with none of them. But I just choose the King James because and when I say choose it, I'm saying choose to read out of it more. It just seems like the words that they used in the English are closest to the Hebrew and the Greek. When you start getting into the NIV, the ESV, the language is further away. It helps you understand what's being said, but the language itself is further away from its original. Anyway, and it says, all right, it says, "She also lieth in wait as for a prey." So the lying in wait, we know it's talking about intentional. Like Satan lied in wait. He lied in wait for Adam and Eve, right? Premeditated. It's just a characteristic of Satan, right? The Bible describes the premeditated unaliving is not the same as manslaughter. And so it's showing that the person that's being referred to here, she also lieth in wait as for a prey, and increaseth the transgressors among men, meaning making them like her, right? The whore instead of the bride. Two women in the Bible, the whore and the bride. Who hath woe, who hath sorrow, who hath contentions, who hath babbling, who hath wounds without cause, who hath redness of the eyes. So again, two of everything, two women, there's two narrow paths. A lot of people will say, no, Satan's path is not narrow. Well, it is. It doesn't just say it here, it says it in other places. But it's saying in order for you to have gotten there, You were intentional of getting there. That's why that nobody will boast before God and say that what he's not just I'm the way that I am, not just because you made me a certain way, but all the choices I made, it was you that made them. I had no choice whatsoever. If you had no choice whatsoever, the path wouldn't be narrow to make it intentional. It's intentional. So when it says, it's funny, it says, woe, sorrow, contentions, babbling, who hath wounds without cause, who hath redness of the eyes. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find. It don't matter. Let's see, where was that? Redness of the eyes. It says, they that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine, look not thou upon the wine. So there's nothing here that is talking about goodness. In context, there's nothing good being talked about from 26, because it says, give me thine heart and let thy eyes observe my ways. So this is the only part, like if we go to, I'm talking about 20, 28, 29, watch. Hearken unto thy father, beget thee, let me see, by the truth, and sell it. Man, I'm just going to do what I should have done, which is just start at 21. It says, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and the drowsiness shall clothe the man with rags. So this is not talking about anything other than a man that's in his flesh. That's what this is talking about. For the drunkard and glutton shall come to poverty. Even though the black letters on a white page are clearly telling you not to be an idiotic drunk. But spiritually, this is talking about someone that's caught up in their flesh. That's why Paul said we need to be soberly minded. He's not telling us that we should not get drunk on the weekends. That's not what he's talking about. Whether you should get drunk on the weekends or not, it's a total different conversation. It has nothing to do with being soberly minded. Soberly minded means you're in the spirit. You put on the mind of Christ, therefore you're sober. But a person that's not, they're intoxicated by their flesh. That now you're drunk and a glutton. So 22 says, hearken unto thy father that begot thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. By the truth, and sell it not. Again, now we're talking about buying and selling. This goes all the way back to the mark of the beast, buying and selling the merchandise. It's not talking about a chip in your forehead and in your hand. It's talking about the words that come out of your mouth.
Amen, my brother. Yeah. I haven't heard many people speak that. I'm on that same line with you, because the mark of the beast it was in their forehead and in their hand. Hand represents the authority, and head represents the carnal mind. So it's what they were speaking and eating. He says, "Buy the truth and sell it not."
Yeah. So in let's see. Yeah, 23, buy the truth and sell it not. Also, it says wisdom and instruction and understanding. So it's talking about God's wisdom. So it says, buy the truth, sell it not, which is talking about wisdom, instruction, understanding, which those are attributes of the Spirit. So buy it and don't sell it, meaning don't give it away like Esau did, because the Spirit is our inheritance. So the fact that Esau, he sold his inheritance for a pot of beans, that means he allowed his physical body to lie to him and make him believe that his inheritance that will be his forever, right, which is pointing to being co-heirs with Christ, that this meal, right, it's called the pig mentality, right? I think it's somebody could look that up. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but it's the pig mentality. It's excuse me, Lord. It's a type of self gratification that you just have to have right now. So the fact that the fact that Esau had the pig mentality, the swine mentality, that he would rather give away his inheritance that was given to him by his father. He would rather throw that away to be drunk, to be a drunkard, because he wasn't sober. He allowed his flesh to take him out of common sense and into something that shouldn't have happened, but it did. And Jacob knew that his inheritance was worth more than a pot of beans. And people do that today, right? The flesh, not being soberly minded, but being intoxicated by the flesh. And
may I share this while you're speaking on that subject? You know, when you're talking about the pig mentality, that's why the scripture speaks about the swine, which they refer to as the pig. But the swine, in the word swine, you have the word wine. It's the old wine skin. And hello, Jacob is the new wine skin.
Yeah, the swine. So swine today is a non-believer. Okay, it's a person that doesn't believe in God, or it's any person that doesn't have faith in the new wine, who is Jesus. So a Jew today who rejects Jesus as the Messiah is actually considered a swine. It's what they're considered, because they are the old wine skin, the old covenant, not the new wine skin, right? But you do have to be careful telling them that, because them's fighting words, right? So, but it is the truth, right? You have the old wineskin and the new wineskin. You have the old covenant, you have the new covenant, and you don't put new wine in an old wineskin. So that person has to be born again. A Jew who's not been born again, and they're just holding on to the Mosaic law, and they're saying that they are who they are because of Abraham. Jesus said, nope, no, you're not. He made it very clear. So I'm not going to get in the argument or discussion about Israel. People still think that God's going to come save Israel, like the nation that's out there. That's not how that's going to go down. I'll be very clear about that. Jesus is Israel, and anyone that is grafted in him, that's who's going to be saved. Nobody's going to be saved because of Abraham or because of the Mosaic law.
Amen, Prophet. Can I say something on that? Because it says he's not a Jew as one outwardly, but he is a Jew has become one inwardly. I saw the new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God, adorned as a bride for her husband. We are the new Jew. We are the Jews. We are the chosen ones. We're born of the water and the Spirit. So
yeah,
I hear you clearly.
Yeah, and then also people will call this a replacement theory. So there were Jews that received Jesus. There were people of Israel that received Jesus. We cannot replace them, but we are one with them. So they cannot be replaced. So there is no such thing as replacement. Nothing is replaced. The only thing that, if you want to use the word replaced, was the covenant. The covenant was replaced with the new one, and you're either under that one or you're not. So when people try to use scare tactics and telling you that you're doing replacement, like you replaced the real Jews, that's a lie in itself. To even contour your mouth to even say such a dumb thing is very foolish. No people were replaced, but 100%. There was a replacement of the covenant. There was an old, and now there's a new. And even the people of the old have to receive the new. There's no way around it. So if you were physically circumcised, that's not going to have any effect on this new covenant. None whatsoever. This circumcision is of the heart. So a person is not circumcised of the heart, then in God's eyes, you're not circumcised at all. Your heart has not been replaced, which means you still think that you can earn heaven by according to some law, and you can't earn it. So, and it says, let's see. Man, where was I at? Oh, drowsiness clothe a man. Okay, I'm going to read that again. 21 says, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty. And it says, Jesus, during the Beatitudes, he said, blessed are the meek, blessed are the poor. During the Beatitudes, he said, blessed are the meek, blessed are the poor. What he's saying is those people that are poor, right, quote unquote, in poverty, those who know that they're in poverty will no longer be in poverty. But he says right here, for the drunkard and the glutton, talking about someone that stays in their flesh, rather they want to believe in God or not, and the fact that they are people that say they don't believe in God, or you have people that claim that they're under the law and they can't uphold the law. You can't. It's never going to happen. And let me just say this. It's not even whether you can do the law or not. It's no longer the covenant. It's so funny to me when people think that the argument is you can do the law. They have this argument that they think that that's the argument. That's not the argument. Of course, I say it's if anyone claims that they can do the law, that's not an easy task. It's not. If you claim that you can. But that's not the nucleus of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that's no longer the covenant. So regardless if you do it or not, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you do it or not. You're either under the new covenant or you're not. So this right here for the drunkard and the glutton is talking about someone who is in their flesh. Your flesh is the only thing that is focused on doing something in the sense that I can do something for God. You're not soberly minded. A person who is soberly minded, they add nothing to what Jesus did. So when it says, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, it's saying a person that is not in the covenant based on the Spirit, they are going to come to poverty, which Jesus came to take people out of poverty, but you haven't now allowed him to. And it says, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. So instead of you being covered by Christ, you're covered by rags, meaning your own works, because you're not thinking soberly. So it says, hearken unto thy father that begat thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. So it says, hearken unto, let me go to, that's fine. Hearken unto thy father that begat thee. So you either were begotten by your physical father, which means you're still of this world, or you were begotten by Father, which is in heaven. The Bible says whatever soil you come from, that soil you will return. So if you hearken unto your physical father in the sense that there is no spiritual God, and I'm talking about the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you have come to the conclusion in your life that that God is not real, that does not play an effect or a role in your life, then hearken unto your physical father. Because since you are claiming that you came from the fallen world, then you will return to the fallen world. But it's your choice. That's why it words it this way. Hearken unto the Father that begot you. And we know that Jesus is the begotten. So if we're going to be co-heirs with him, then we need to hearken to him. And it says, and despise not thy mother when she is old. All of us got born again, and it was through the Spirit. So even though this is telling you to be nice to your dad and to be nice to your mom in this physical world, we're no longer children. We already understand that this is telling us to respect our parents 100%. But the God that wrote this is more than just a poet. So that his words there's no limit to how wise he is when he writes things down. He says, buy the truth, and the only way to buy the truth is to believe what Jesus said when he said that he's the truth. So someone can lie to you, and you can say, man, I ain't buying that. People say it to this day all the time. If you tell someone you went fishing and you caught a 50-pound largemouth bass in a lake in Texas, I'm telling you right now, I ain't buying that. No, you didn't. You did not catch a 50-pound bass in a lake in Texas. The record is probably 20 pounds. I don't even know what the record is, but it's for you to say you caught a 50-pound largemouth, Bubba, you were in the ocean and you caught some sort of ocean bass or something. You didn't catch no largemouth. So I'm going to tell you, I'm not buying that. You go sell that lie to somebody else. So this way of speaking is not new to us, but yet we read the Bible and we don't know what buying and selling is. How is it that people claim that they understand the Bible, but they don't understand what buying and selling is? All of a sudden they forgot.
Can I say this? While you're speaking, it says, buy the truth and sell it not, right? Because just like you said, everything is two. We have two witnesses. You have buy, B-U-Y, and then you got buy, B-Y. Because you're saved by grace through faith in Jesus Christ, the gift of God, so that no man may brag or boast. So that no man, because man representing carnal, right? But God is representative of spiritual. And the reason why you can't sell it is because we were purchased with the price of his blood that was shed for us. That's why you can't sell it. That's why Judas threw his 30 pieces of silver in the field of blood.
Yeah, selling it is meaning getting rid of it, like no longer owning it, right? So again, Jacob and Esau, he chose his physical flesh, his belly, right? Paul said, for their belly is their God. And he's talking about the haters of the cross, but it's referring to people that are not going to see what happened as Jesus being the Messiah. They're not going to see it. So they hate, which would be a Jew today or any other person that says that they are Torah believer or whatever. I don't care what they say. They're haters of the cross. They hate the cross. They don't have to say it. It is so easy. They talk more about Moses, the law, or their skin color than they do Jesus. So 90% of what comes out of your mouth should be Jesus. The 10% should be anything else regarding Jesus, though, right? So the other 10% would be you saying, all right, let's go to the book of Proverbs. Like that's just you giving people instructions or where to go in the Bible. How do I get there? Hey, what did you say? That's the other 10% of the words coming out of your mouth. But the other 90, it should be nothing but Jesus. So talking about Jesus, receiving Jesus, that is buying the truth, meaning believing that he's the truth. Believing is what was said. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So if someone says, man, I ain't buying that, you're not the truth, then don't buy it. But this right here says buy the truth, meaning believe. Buying is believing, if anybody didn't know. Believing what someone said is eating. Okay, so in the garden, when Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, that is believing. Eating is believing. When you believe what someone said, you will become that thing because you're believing it. And Jesus is saying, believe me. That's what he's saying, that he's the truth, he's the way, he's the life. He is. And it's telling us to buy the truth, meaning believe the truth, who is Christ. So we're supposed to eat from that tree, the tree of life. So it says, buy the truth and sell it not, meaning believe that Christ is the truth and don't sell it like Esau did. He sold his inheritance for a pot of beans based on his flesh. This right here is talking about gluttony. Even in 20, it says, be not among the winebibbers, among righteous eaters of the flesh. Be not among the winebibbers. This is talking about people who are not soberly minded. And it says, and among righteous eaters of the flesh. They're righteous, all right, but they eat the flesh. They don't eat of the spirit. Anything that has to do with their flesh, that is their belly, and their belly is their God. And then we get to, says, buy the truth and sell it not. Also, wisdom, instruction, understanding, which are characteristics of the spirit, spirit of wisdom, spirit of understanding. The spirit of instruction doesn't have to be mentioned because Christ is the instructor. Wisdom and understanding and knowledge all point to instructions. And it says, the father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, And he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy in them. A wise child is someone that is buying the truth. And they're not only buying it, they're giving it to other people. And it says, thy father and mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. Well, the Bible tells us that there's rejoice in heaven when someone is born again. It tells us that. That's to rejoice. It says, my son, give me thy heart and let thy eyes observe my ways. So let me go to, or I'll just keep reading. It says, for a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. So a whore is someone that is not born again. They're someone that, instead of being the bride, excuse me, they have chosen to keep the dead spirit they already have. Each one of us was a harlot in God's eyes. We were committing spiritual idolatry. So it says a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman, meaning someone that God does not know. That's why the person is called strange. In the Old Testament, it would say, do this, and let the strangers come. Strangers, meaning people that are not part of y'all, they still can be grafted in or become part of y'all. So no, it's nothing. That concept is not new. God didn't just come and finally allow Gentiles to start being grafted in. There were Gentiles that will, quote unquote, become grafted into the Jews. But notice, after they were grafted into the Jews, they became as a Jew. They did things that the Jews did.
Hello, Cornelius.
There's a lot of people in the Bible, the Old Testament specifically, who I'm referring to. But it says, let's see, narrow pit. All right, it says, because it's talking about the whore, the strange woman, and it says, she also lieth in wait as for a prey, and increaseth the transgressors among men. So it's really pointing out that she lies in wait to unalive in the same way that Satan did, that she waits to get someone to lead them away from the truth or to sell them a lie and say that this is the truth, like someone that's caught up in the flesh, like the winebibber or the drunkard. And it says, who hath woe, who hath sorrow, who hath contentions, who hath blabbling, who hath wounds without cause, who hath readiness of the eyes. I'm going to read a little further down and we'll come back to 29. It says, they that tarry long at wine, they that go to seek mixed wine, look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent and stingeth like an adder. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thy heart shall utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of a mast. Hold on. All right, and it says, they have stricken me. Shalt thou say, and I was not sick? They have beaten me, and I felt it. Not when, what? And I felt it. No, I felt it not. And I felt it not. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again. Let me read 24 real quick, because there's something I feel like I'm missing. Maybe it was before. It says, be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire, let's see, for their heart. No, that's not it. I feel like I missed something. Then again, it's been a minute. Nope, that's the full. I remember that. Apply thy heart unto instruction, and thy ears to the words of knowledge. Withhold not correction from a child, if he beatest him with a rod. He shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod and shall deliver his soul from hell. If you don't know Jesus is the rod, then you think all people will think all this is talking about is spanking your kids. Even though that's true, you're obviously supposed to discipline your kids. But Jesus is the rod. It's the only thing that saves a man. So it says, my son, if thy heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine. Yea, my reign shall rejoice when thy lips speak. Let not thy heart envy sinners, for surely there is an end, and thy ex shall be cut off. Hear thou, my son, be wise, and guide thy heart in thy way. Be not among. Okay, maybe it's something else, I guess, because I feel like I'm missing something. It doesn't matter.
Could it be in 22? Because we read 22. And that gave us some.
I don't remember.
I wanted to share something while you was seeking out what you were looking for when you were speaking about the tree in the garden when they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life was in the midst of the garden. That tree of knowledge of good and evil is eating from the letter of the law. But the tree of life that's in the midst of the garden, that's the mind of Christ that we're eating and we're partaking of. The letter killeth, and the letter makes you bitter, but grace makes you better. Hello, the tree of life. God made a better covenant with us. Because if you look at the brain, it looks like a tree. But that brain, when it becomes two and is not divided, it's the mind. That's the tree of life.
Yeah, no, that's partially right. And what I mean by that is the tree of life is Jesus, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is Satan itself, right? And we know that Satan's not the law, but he's our adversary. So in that sense, he uses the law against us. So it's not that the law itself is bad, except it's just that he has taken it and he has used it as a weapon. That's what he's done. So so when the Bible says that the letter killeth, it's talking about the fact because we have an adversary now. So, and I don't talk about this a whole lot because people get tripped up over it, but the law itself, God is the law. Jesus is the law. But without an adversary, the law is perfect, and it's a good thing because it's like the standard of what God is. But people, they don't know how to rightly divide the fact that the law is good, but because of the adversary who is still here, who is still confusing people that this is how God looks at you, that's why the law can't do it, because of the adversary. The adversary is holding everyone accountable to the law. And so the two trees in the midst is Satan and Jesus and Lucifer. That's who the two trees are. Two trees are people. So Satan uses the law, but the tree itself is not the law. It's another one that speaks, but he speaks lies. That's why Jesus said he is a liar. And so the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree is a bad tree. So because it's called good and evil, it doesn't mean that there's good fruit and bad fruit. The tree is either good or the tree is either bad, just like Jesus says. And it's talking about, Jesus is pointing out the root, and the root is referring to the spirit, the thing that brings life to that being. So under the first Adam, our spirit was dead. Therefore, we were bad trees, and we bore bad fruit. We didn't have good and bad fruit. It's either good or it's bad. But when people read the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they see this word good, and they think it means good. No, that's not what it means. It means performance good. That's what that means, good and evil, based on performance. That's why you'll hear people say that the tree is the law, but the tree is not the law. It's Satan who uses the law. He uses it. He's our adversary. And because he took man's dominion, he is able to make all of us believe that God loves us based on who is good and who is evil. But he's doing that so he can instill fear in people, because nobody will ever believe they're good. Never. Satan will never allow you to believe in your flesh that you're good. It'll never happen. But because Christ died for us, we can replace. So if we want to say replace theology, it's replace Satan's theology with God's theology, right? Satan's theology is y'all are all bad unless you do good. Well, I tell you the truth, you'll never do good in your eyes. I don't care if you do good for 5 years, somewhere something's going to happen and you're going to fall back into this, well, I didn't do good today. And you think that's how God is seeing. No, that's how Satan is telling people how God sees, but he's lying. That's not how God sees. If you have his son in you, then he doesn't see nothing else but his son. That's all he sees. But Satan will make you believe, oh, look at that thing you did. And so because of fear, people say, wait a minute, are you saying we can just do whatever we want? That's not what God is saying. God is not saying go do whatever you want. What he's trying to tell you is you're either right because Christ is in you, or you're not right because Christ is not in you. That's it. That's why we were enemies of God. We weren't just simply enemies of God because we were bad sinners. That's not why you are an enemy. You were an enemy because the root of the tree was bad. Because the root of the tree is bad, you're bad. But now we have the Son, the root has been replaced. Now the tree is good because the root is good. That was the whole point of the high priest. If the high priest was bad, the people were bad. If the high priest was good, the people were good. But people cannot get around this sin. When can I sin? When can I not sin? How can I sin? They can't get around it because they're focused on what Satan has them focused on, which is good and evil. So
that's like you said, when you have the adversary eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is forever learning and never able to come into the knowledge, the revelation of the truth. But when you're eating and partaking from the tree of life, you're having your senses sharpened to discern good and evil. That's the difference.
Yeah. Your discernment becomes reality because of the Christ in you. See, before someone is saved, they don't have the Christ in them. They don't have the Messiah. They are not co-heirs of this inheritance. So because of that, everything is based on good and evil, like it already was. People, before they get saved, you go to atheists right now who is not saved, and you ask them, how do you get in heaven? The majority of atheists will tell you, be good, not evil. So because of that, why would an atheist think they need a God? They know, in their eyes, they believe they know what good is and what evil is. So they're playing the game that Satan wants them to play. They'll even tell you, I'm a good person. I go to work. I do this. I do that. They're no different than a person that calls himself a Christian. They go to work. They treat their kids right. They take care of their dogs. I don't do nothing bad. And what do they see as bad? Going to prison. Have you been to prison? I'll never forget when it finally clicked in my head that if you've been to prison, you're bad. Not something bad happened or you did something bad. No. You are bad. You become, in their head, you become what is bad. And because these people haven't been to prison, they become what is good. So there's the good and the evil. We see the bad and the non-bad. It's not true. Prison does not determine who is bad okay, now that's the people on the outside. But I've talked to many people that's gone to prison. I've talked to many. I've talked to people inside the prison, face to face. I've talked to them. I've asked them questions, and you will find people, that you'll hear their story, And you just know after you meet their family, you know that they did something real stupid, ended up in jail, and they don't live their life like that. Not even close. But to some people that hasn't been to prison, that person's a bad person, evil person, because they've been to prison. But what I'm saying is they're in prison 5, 10, 20. I met this dude. I don't know if he was in there for 30 years or 40, but when he said the number, I was like, what? I'll just say 35. I'll meet it in the middle. She's like, I've been here, 35 years. I said, 35 years. And at that time, I'm like, bro, you've been in here as old as I am. Like, you came in here when I was born, pretty much. I mean, if you want to be real. And I'm looking at this guy, said, bro, like, we all hear about you out there. Everybody hears these stories. So-and-so went to prison. He's going to be sentenced to 50 years. Everybody hears. But when you meet one of these guys and you're like, so you're one of those guys, lifers or whatever, I think lifers. Yeah. He told me that every morning he gets up, he sits at the same seat in front of this TV. Been doing it for 5 or 10 years. Every morning he sits right there. And he said there's only 1 or maybe 2 guys that will come out with them in the morning or something and sit. And I said, how come nobody else is coming out? And he's like, oh, because I'm a lifer. I was like, what is that? Common sense. What do you mean? Oh, because I'm never getting out, he said. So they allow guys like me, whatever it is that we enjoy, like this game, they allow them to do it because this is their home. They're never leaving. And apparently, this is respected. Everybody will respect it. He's never getting out. Leave that guy alone. All y'all are getting out within 5, 10, or 15 years. This dude's never leaving. So, but I'm saying everybody would call this man evil. But this man, he's saved. He's born again. But he's a good man in God's eyes because he's born again. But he'll be saved behind bars, not free. But he's saved. So he's an evil man. This is what Satan has made everybody believe, that this man is evil because he went to prison. There's people that never get caught. Never. There's people commit crimes all the time and they never get caught. So if they never get caught, they're good people. That's why we're not supposed to be looking at outer performance. God doesn't look at outer performance. He looks at the heart, right? Let me go back to where I was at, because we were talking about the knowledge of good and evil and Christ. But it says, my son, give me thy heart and let thy eyes observe my ways. So this would be God telling someone, let your eyes observe my ways. He says, for the whore is deep. Or I'm sorry, I don't have to read that again. But he talks about the whore because we're supposed to be part of the bride, not the whore. And it talks about her lying in wait. The Bible talks about lying in wait all the time. And it says, watch this. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Who hath redness of the eyes? There's only 2 people in the Bible that this is truly talking about. Now, again, we can find many people where these things have similarities, but there's only 2 that this is 100% talking about. And of course, like I said, we could go to Samson, we could talk about the first Adam and all that. But matter of fact, who's up here? Hey, somebody look up this word babbling in Proverbs 29. Proverbs 29, the word babbling. I want to see if it comes back as murmurings, because I don't remember.
Hold on.
Oh, you got it.
Well, if you're there, go ahead. But
I'm not.
okay, Proverbs 29. What?
The word babbling. Proverbs 29, the word babbling.
Oh, it's 23:9, right?
I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
Proverbs 23:9. 29. 23:29.
Oh, 29. Okay, hold on.
Oh.
Got it. 23, 29. One second. Sorry. Interlinear. All right. Babbling. It says H7879. It says meditation, complaint, musing.
So it says complaining?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I figured. So it says
talking, babbling. Yep.
Yeah, but complaining. Okay, I know what babbling is, but sometimes babbling could be like people are just like saying stuff, but maybe not complaining. But this is pointing out the complaining type, that the person just sitting there babbling on and on, complaining. But it says, who hath woe, who hath sorrow, who hath contentions, who hath babblings or complainings, who hath wounds without cause, who hath redness of the eye. And I think if you go look this up, redness of the eye, matter of fact, somebody go look that up. I mean, it could just mean red-eyed, but I'm curious.
Redness of the eye is in verse 29 as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Redness.
I want to know if it's talking about the person being like blind or something.
It says redness, dullness, like dull.
Yeah. What else? That's it? Yeah. Is that it? It just says.
Do you want me to do the root word too?
Yeah, you can do the root word. Okay. I just want to know if it's pointing out like blind or something.
So the root word says by reduplication from the onion. Okay, then it says dull, dark, flashing, brilliant.
Dark. Okay, dark. Okay, so it's talking about dim. So it's dark. A redness of a dimness.
Yep.
All right. Red and okay, so it says, who hath redness of the eye? And it says, they that tarry long at the wine, they go seek mixed wine. Yeah, this is 100. This is 100% is talking about, you know how like a person will get drunk, and then after that the wine ain't got to be perfect. They just want to keep drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 31 it says, "Look not thou upon the wine when it is red." Right, when it is red, when it giveth off his color, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent and sting like an adder. It says, thy eyes shall behold strange women. So this is talking about when you allow yourself to become intoxicated. Okay? But again, it's pointing out to the flesh, because it says your eyes will behold strange women, just like a bibber and a drunkard. You know, they start looking at women that they don't even know and they don't care. Right? Because they're intoxicated. I'm talking both with intoxicated like with with wine, or intoxicated by the flesh. The characteristic is for both. And it says, and thy heart shall utter perverse things. Why? Because you're no longer soberly minded, meaning you're no longer in the spirit. So you're going to say perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea. And if you don't know that's talking about the Leviathan, I'm not sure what Bible you're reading. There is only one creature of the sea. The Bible talks about it over and over, and it's the Leviathan. You can't catch him with the hook, and you can't do all these things. It's in the book of Job. But the Leviathan and the behemoth are the two trees in the midst. There are two trees in the midst, Christ and Lucifer, who is now Satan. But that's what the Leviathan and the behemoth, right? When a person can rightly divide and know that the two trees are Lucifer and Jesus, that the two animals, the beast of the field and the serpent that's in the sea, when you can discern what these two things are, then the story of Jonah will make more sense, where Jesus said, you shall not get a sign but the sign of Jonas. Jonah's story depicts perfectly that he was at Joppa, which is the port of beautiful, meaning he was in the presence of God. He left Joppa, which is the presence of God, and he goes into the sea. The book of Revelation tells us the sea will no longer be here. That means the fish that go along with that sea will no longer be here. That's why Jesus says to cast the net on the right side. Why? Catching the people that are in this world, but not of this world, taking them out of the sea, because he's going to get rid of the sea, and he's going to get rid of the sea. And let's see. He that lieth down in the midst of the sea, which is the Leviathan and his children. That's why Jesus told the scribes and the Pharisees, your father is the devil. Who? These are people who claim to be under the law. I'm telling you, to this day, this is true. If in your head you are upholding the law that Moses gave, the covenant that Abraham made, if you are claiming that this is how you are right with God, then my friend, you are laying in the midst of the sea with the wrong creature. Okay, and it says, or as he that liveth upon the top of a mast. And if you don't know what a top of a mast is, that's a scary place to be in the sea. You're holding on for dear life, but you know what? You're still in the sea, period. You're still in the sea, right? 35 says, they have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I wake? I will seek it yet again. Yeah, so 35, where it says, they have stricken me, right? And it says, shalt thou say, and I was not sick, like they hit me and I was fine, basically. And it says, they have beaten me and I didn't feel it. So, and then it says, but when shall I wake? I will seek it yet again. It's literally talking about the cycle of a drunk, right? You know where it says it'll bite you like a serpent and sting like an adder? It's talking about when you wake up, you're going to ask yourself, man, what did I do last night? Well, you probably went to jail last night. You probably had relations with a strange person, strange woman or whatnot. And the bites that you'll get for being intoxicated, the bites that you'll get, these people don't care. So verse 35 is literally saying that I got my butt whooped last night, but it's okay. When I sober up, I'm going to do it again. That's what's being said here. But the principle, the nucleus of all this is they have convinced themselves that this is a pleasant way to live. You understand? The word pleasant, it's pleasant. It pleases them. So their eyes are not red with the ruddiness of Christ. When they see Jesus, they don't see ruddy. Their flesh is the ruddy thing. Ruddy is pointing to pleasantness. So when it says, look not thou upon the wine when it is red, meaning don't look at wine when you're in your flesh. Don't look at wine when you think wine is pleasant. Don't do that, meaning don't trust your flesh, because if wine has ever been your vice, you will, basically this whole thing that you're reading is telling you all you're going to start doing is start thinking of how the wine pleases you. That's it. But it's any sin, but it's using wine here because it's pointing to Jesus in the opposite end, meaning that if wine is not red to you, then Jesus is. So if wine is not red to you, then Jesus is. So when it says don't look at wine when it's red, it's saying don't look at it when it's pleasant. But if Jesus is pleasant to you and you quote unquote look at wine it's not red to you. It's not pleasant to you any longer. But this whole thing is pointing to being intoxicated, like physically. It's talking about a person that doesn't know how to control themselves in the flesh, right? Which the Bible is telling us that this is talking about that we're supposed to be soberly minding, meaning stay in the mind of Christ, so the flesh doesn't have its way with us. Eat our lunch and pop the bag, pretty much, right? All right, anybody got any questions on that?
You know, when you were speaking, yeah, it was great. When you were speaking about the sea, when it's written about there be no more sea, you got two C's. You got the SEA when you're looking at things through the carnal mind, through adversity. And then you have SEE when you see the vision, you come out of the dream. And that's why when you're looking at things through the carnal mind, through the adversary, that's why there's going to be no more sea. That's why he says, what do you see? I see men as trees. Look again. I see men as trees walking, because we're walking by faith and not by sight. So that's the C and the C that you are speaking about.
No, the C's I'm speaking of are the SEA. There's two SEACs, not the sight C. There's two sight C's and there's two SEACs. They both have two. So you have the C that is of God and you have the C that is of Satan. And I'm talking about the SEA. I'm talking about both of those C's. And there's two sights. There's two SEE apostrophe S. There's two sights. Two. You have a sight that is of Satan, and you have a sight that is of God, which I just got through talking about when the Bible says, or I just went over it when I was discussing, or I'll go over it a different way, like in the garden where it says, talking about Eve, and it says, and when she saw that the tree was good for food or pleasant to the sight, and she did eat. This is not talking about the sight of God. It's not talking about the pleasantness of God, the way he sees things. It's talking about how Satan lied in wait and convinced her, and she ate. She sold the truth. She bought a lie for the truth, and it's described to us as a sight. And when she saw that the tree was good for food, the tree was not good for food. That's why she didn't just eat. It was only through, after much convincing of Satan and all those words that she kept believing, that is when her eyes were open to what he was saying. But before, she didn't see that tree as pleasant, not God's pleasantness anyway. So, matter of fact, she was now looking at the wine red, not Christ red, but the flesh red. She was looking at it differently. So the CEAC, there's two of those, and there's two C's, SEE. There are two sights, and our sight is supposed to be like the sight of God, not the sight of man. That's why when God says, my ways are not your ways, he's saying your flesh is not the way of God, the Spirit. So that's what he's referring to when he says, my way is not your way. But if we're soberly minded, meaning that we put on the mind of Christ and we're sober, our way becomes God's way. That's how our way becomes his way. But before you're born again, we don't have the Spirit of God living in us. So we had nothing but dead spirit and flesh to go off of. But now that we have the Spirit of God living on the inside of us, now we can see properly because of him. Guys, before I hop off, because I got to go, and I'm sorry I was late, but I got to go. Does anybody got something to say before we bounce? Anybody? Jay.
Teacher, teaching. So thank you. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, what's up? I see you.
It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, what's up? I see you just hopped in. What's up?
Oh, yeah, I've been here. I just hopped up on a pattern. So, no, I've been here from the beginning, brother. And you're right. You was very late, brother.
Yeah, I know. I had a lot to do. I'm sorry. I had so much to do. Just so y'all know, I ordered I ordered. I should have got a 200 foot, but I need this sucker to get here tomorrow. So I'm hoping it does get here tomorrow. I ordered a 300 foot cord to go to the Starlink system, and it says it's going to be here tomorrow. So I hope so, because I didn't even turn on the YouTube today. So I'm hoping. I'm telling you, if this thing don't work right there, I got some more trees it's going to cut down. I'm going to wait a little bit, and I'll keep trying as much as I can. But if it never works, then I'm just going to have to mail it back to OJH for JC, and obviously give him a big thank you for even letting me try it to see if it will work. But, hey, it still could. I haven't tried it at the barn, and the trees that are around the house, we have half of them cut down. And when those suckers are gone, we're going to throw it up there, and we're going to see. We're going to see what happens.
Hey, Gilead, those the 300, that 300 core will work. Hello, Gilead.
Yeah, I'm hoping it does. I'm hoping it does. Well, matter of fact, there's no after everything that I studied, man, it looks like, I'm telling you, it looks like a 70 to 75% chance. Like, it is a good chance that it will. Because now there are some trees, but they're further away from it. So I did it about 10 times, and I'm starting to understand how this system kind of works a little bit. Basically, the more sky that it can open up to, obviously, the more, the better reception it'll get, and it'll keep. So there's not a lot of obstruction, but where I was putting it, there was a lot. But we're still going to try that. And we'll see, man. One thing at a time. And I'm going to have to hire help. I don't want to, but I'm going to have to hire help to cut these trees that are right next to my house. That way I can have a crew out here. And let me say, if you don't know anything about cutting trees, boy, it is expensive. It ain't cheap. And I'm just going to have to do it. It is what it is. There's no way around this. New creation, what's going on before we hop off? What's up? Hello. I don't know who New Creation is. Anybody know New Creation?
We met him on Alex's live.
Oh, okay. He probably got busy. Guys, I gotta hop off. I wish I was able to stay on longer, but there's no way. I got too much to do today. Anyway, so I'm gonna let you go. What's up?
I just wanted to say one thing before I left. Blessings and loves, family. And Trot, when I moved in my house, it had like a 45, 50 foot antenna for a ham radio, and it was attached to the house. Big, massive, major thing we had to tear down. But tree service is expensive. I spent $5,500 taking 2 trees down around my house.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's just say it's the same expensive out here. Trust me, it's not cheap. It is not cheap. And let me say this: I have 2 trees or 3 trees that they're going to be cutting, and they charge you per tree. So it's Jason, would you say 11K
they
for
had
6?
To use a crane. They used a crane and moved the stumps because they were so big and round they couldn't cut through them. They took a crane and moved the stumps onto a truck.
Oh yeah,
I've actually got 2 of them right in my backyard.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, it has to happen anyway. So they need to go. Let me just say this: I love shade, and these 2 trees, they give great shade on the house, and I'm telling you, it probably can make your house 5 to 10 degrees cooler during the summer. It does, but we're just gonna have to crank up the AC, man, because. It's hurting. It's not, and again, even if that wasn't the problem, trees. Huh?
I'm missing my trees. But I'm concentrating on the benefits. Like I used to have squirrels running across my house all the time, and I don't have that no more. And so I just try to concentrate on the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Tammy, guys. They're literally. I don't care where you go. It's about $1,500 to $2,000 to cut 1 tree down. I mean, that's just, and we have 3, so you can kind of do the math on that. It's not cheap. Anyway, God bless, guys. We'll see y'all in the morning.
On this scale, I wanted to ask.
Oh,
can you download this from YouTube?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this. because we're on TikTok right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is once it's finished uploading to TikTok, I'll download it to my system, and then I'll upload it on YouTube. It's more than likely going to be on a video because it's not going to be in the live section, but it'll be a video, and I'll probably title it, something simple like red site, or I don't know. I'll figure out something. Yeah, I'll figure out the Ruddy site, or matter of fact, let me put this right here. I might even call it.
Put Proverbs, the title of the chapters.
I'm probably
in the title.
I might, yeah. I might just put Ruddy Eyes. Matter of fact, that's probably what I'm gonna title it. I'll probably put Ruddy Eyes. And
when I go to YouTube, do I just look up Descaled on YouTube?
Yeah. So you have to type in, the little @ symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just put the @ symbol in YouTube, and then so the name of it is @Descaled Live. @Descaled Live is the name of the YouTube channel for Descaled.
Descaled Live. Okay.
Yeah, @Descaled Live. And right now we have over 400. Like these lives that you just was in, I have at least 400 of them recorded. And they'll be in the live. When you go to YouTube, there's a shorts, short videos, and then there's videos, and then there's a live section. So there's a lot of shorts, there's a lot of videos, a lot of lives. Total, we got about 500 videos, lives, shorts. There's totals 500 of them. So I tell people all the time, I don't care if you're taking a shower, mowing the grass, cooking. I mean, you can put something on and listen to it. And maybe half of the videos have titles, because there's a lot of them that don't. And I'm trying to catch up, but I just didn't put titles on a lot of them. But it is what it is. Anyhow, all right, guys, that was what was that anyway? Proverbs 22 or 23? 23, Proverbs 23. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to.
21. You started at 21, went back.
21. Yeah, I mean, I probably won't even put the title there to be. I'll put Ruddy Eyes on there, because if you pay attention, we're not really just talking about Proverbs 23. There's a lot of the Bible that I bring into the conversation. So it's really hard. I mean, it's based on Proverbs 23, but I might put that in there just to make it more precise. Has anybody else got anything? Anybody? No. All right, guys, God bless. We'll see y'all